Hello and welcome back to the weekly woo from March 23rd to March 29th. Geez, hard to believe we're almost working our way towards the end of March already. It went by very, very quickly. So this week is very interesting. She packs a little punch and it's got a little juice behind it, positive or negative. The good thing about this week is we do not have any major negative aspects. So, I mean, that's a good thing, but we are sort of jam-packed full of three conjunctions. And conjunctions are the most powerful aspect. They're hot, they're juicy, they pack a punch. They're attention getting. They usually can require some acknowledgement. Now that can be positive or that can be negative. And so to me, the conjunctions always ride the top rail, which can swing either way. So this can be a very, very, very good week, or it can be ultra challenged, or it could actually be a very peaked or high peak energy of both. So just because we don't have any major negative aspects, it doesn't mean that we aren't going to run into challenges or problems or issues or hurdles, okay? So we also do have quite a few annoying little minor hiccup aspects, like, we have the semi-squares, we have the quintiles, we have semi-sextiles, those types of things, which are annoying, and usually those are the little buggers that come along and they change our daily plans. So do expect plans to change on a daily basis, and possibly more than one change per day. So just be flexible, be willing to change, be open, and don't be set in your plans. Don't think you're going to concrete your plans in for the week, because that's probably not going to happen, okay? All right. Something else I do want to mention too is we don't have any major Uranian or Uranus aspects, but we are certainly boxed in by Uranus. I didn't see that coming, and something coming in out of the blue that alters the plans or changes the plans. So that also adds to the all over the place energy for plans changing. So unexpected people, unexpected events, shock, surprise, breakdowns, breakthroughs. Okay, so when I see that boxed in by Uranus, to me that always says, crazy things, unexpected things, crazy people, crazy behaviors. Now, that starts tomorrow on the 23rd, and the other aspect actually happens on the 29th. Okay, so I just wanted to make a mention of that. So it's kind of, it's all over the place energy. It tends to be fairly erratic, but very, very juiced up. It's very charged, okay? So if you think it's going to be calm, it's probably not going to be. But it is energizing energy where it does give lots of potential to, have energy and areas to work with. But it's very, very peaked out. So the one thing we do want to make sure is that we are not overcharged. We might feel overly energized, but this will want to push you into burnout mode. So what I'm trying to say is don't do that. So avoid burning out. Do not take on too many things, and you do not burn others out. Okay, so even though we're feeling energized or maybe charged, or maybe more so, maybe not as tired as or exhausted as previous, take it in stride. Use the energy wisely. Put it to work in places that's going to be workable. It's going to have positive results, or it's kind of going to flourish, right? Something else that can show up this week is, it can be very, very conflict ridden, because we do have a Sun conjunct Saturn. So we can have authority issues, we can have authority problems. This is someone having an authoritarian energy about us that could be personal to global, to now you've crossed the line and now you're going to have major pushback. So we can definitely see the energy of the explanation or meaning of sovereignty kicking in this week big time. So an overreach of power, creation of restrictions or limitations, or and that can actually include governing bodies, because every time we have Saturn involved, that can be the government, that can be the head of the state. So that's always at the top of the chart. So, and again, pushback. Enough is enough. Somebody's crossed the line, and now there's going to be the visible or verbal results of the pushback and restrictions being broken, limitations being broken, people putting back in their spot. So it's going to be that back and forth of authoritarian versus I'm not taking this anymore. So that can apply personal, and of course we certainly see this playing out on a global level. So if it doesn't apply to you on a personal level, good for you, but we can observe it from a global level or a global potential. Okay, so that being said, so I'm going to quickly jump into our planetary shifts this week. So we really don't have too much for planetary shifts. We just have our asteroid Juno entering into Aquarius. Okay, so that will co-join Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, so but that's about all we have. And on the 30th, which doesn't really include this week, but we're working our way towards it, so I'll just mention it. On March 30th, we will have Venus entering into Taurus. Okay, so that will be in her home sign where she is in her domicile. She's happy. She loves it there. She flourishes well. She does well, and she will orbit there very well with good results, good energy. Okay, it's a good mojo place for Venus to be in her home sign. Okay, and now I will enter into what I would like to call the larger overshadowing aspects. So we are sitting in post-shadow Mercury retrograde, okay? So usually the pre-shadow tends to be a little stronger hiccup energy with Mercury, and then of course full-blown is kind of crazy, and that's where we have communication problems and misunderstandings. It's, accident-prone time, travel problems, lost luggage, flight problems. More famous people tend to die during Mercury retrograde as well, and we've just seen some of that go on in the world too. And the other thing is, it's just problems with electronics and vehicles, and it's just usually it's a mess. Everything that can go wrong with communications does go wrong. So problem with internet, etc. So just a little blurb about that. So we are out of the full blown. We are entered into the post-shadow period. The post-shadow period started on the 20th, and it will last into about the first week of April. Okay, and just know that the post-shadow, every day that goes by, the energy weakens or lessens. So therefore, it does get better each day by day, and it also is never as powerful leading out as leading in. So that's a good thing. Okay, we're also in post-shadow eclipse season yet. So remember, eclipses usually tend to be those non-negotiable changes that come in, and they change our lives in small, medium to large ways, and we have absolutely nothing to say about those non-negotiable changes, just the way we react or respond, work with it or don't work with it. And remember, eclipses eclipse people, places, things, or stuff in or out, and it's usually on a permanent scale. Okay, so that particular time zone will end on about May 3rd. I allow like a couple months. I allow 2 months or something. Like that is subject to opinion from one astrologer to the next. So I allow about 2 months. So that will take us to about May 3rd. Okay. So and just remember, if there are things you want to get rid of out of life permanently, that is kind of your window of opportunity. So you want to put a close to a cycle and an end to a cycle. It's always a good time. Usually the full blown is the best time. You can work with it. It's nothing to be scared of. That's why we want to know the heads up energies coming in and going out, and that way we can bounce on it. We can jump on it. We can make it work for us in our advantage in any way, shape, or form. Okay. All right, so something else I do want to talk about is our Aries and Pisces stellium. So we are slowly inching away from the Pisces, heavy Pisces stellium, but we still have a couple planets in 1 point in Pisces. So we have Mercury, Mars, and we have the North Node in Pisces. So that still is considered a stellium energy of water energy, okay? So, the flooding, the leaks, broken water lines, leaky washing machines, leaky faucets, leaky toilets, leaky washing machines, flooding big time. Like, when I mean flooding, that can be broken water mains, that can be sewage backup. But when I call global flooding or land flooding, that can be flooding, off coastlines, those kind of things, and we're seeing the flooding going on in Hawaii right now. So those kind of things, right? So if you do leave on vacation, be sure to turn off your water source or your water valve coming into your house. That's just a good precaution to do, especially this time. So anytime we have a heavy water stellium, and do note that Jupiter is in Cancer. Cancer is also an additional water sign. It's not the same sign as Pisces, but it is a fourth placement of water. Okay. And the other thing is I want to mention about the water energy is because, again, we have Jupiter in Cancer and three other placements in Pisces. This can be a problem of people that can't mind their own business. That can be a lack of healthy boundaries, or no respectable boundaries. So do not let that be you. And if you're finding your business being minded by others, it might be a good time to implement healthy boundaries, respectable boundaries, and just asking people to mind their own business. People's noses tend to fall off their faces when we have too much water energy. So remember, water is fluid. It literally runs in places it's not supposed to be. So whether it's into walls, under doorways, those kind of things. Well, the same applies to that energy as a whole. Okay. Okay. What else do we want to talk about? Oh yes. Okay. So, and I do want to mention, because we're still talking about the Pisces energy. So, as a whole, this can also include gas and oil. So that can be, at the pumps or drilling and mining, those kind of things. For any of those types of things. So we can be looking at oil prices, fluctuating up or down, gas prices fluctuating up or down. This can include plastics. So any sort of plastics creations, or disposable, or regeneration of plastics, and also the quality of plastics. So that can be highlighted. Immigration, well, we know that that's like a hot on topic, right? So that can be very, very, very elevated in topic content right now. Refugees, that's something else. And something else I do want to mention with this, it can have overdose problems or oversensitivity to products. So oversensitivity, which would be, overdosing on, say, medications, prescriptions, vitamins, minerals, even alcohol, any sort of those kind of things. So it takes very little to get the same results, right? So that's something, like, for example, with oversensitivity, if you, normally drink X amount of alcohol and you're totally fine to drive home, there is the possibility where you could take the same excess, but you would blow over, okay? So, like, that's just an example. All right, and the one thing I will mention when it comes to health and anatomy, but I'll mention it here too. So this can also hover around addiction problems, any sort of addiction problems, right? Especially drugs, recreational drugs, street drugs, medications, prescription drugs, any sex addictions, pornography addictions. Any addictions of any kind is very, very highlighted when we have so much Piscean energy. It's foggy, it's cloudy. It evades, it ignores, it avoids. That's the negative part. So again, this can run both ways. And something else, because we are in the health axis, this can actually turn out or turn up or play out as having abnormal swelling in the body, water retention, and it can affect the lymphatic drainage. Okay, so this always hovers around the lymphatic system. The immune system, but water where it's not supposed to be in the body, that is possible, right? So water retention where you've never had it before, it's there. But the good news is, as we head out of Piscean energy, that will dwindle and go away. But do remember, we are still sitting in the health axis. So what's the health axis? That's our lunar node. So we have the north node in Pisces, we have the south node in Virgo, and that is known clearly as the health axis. And so that would have really began in the fall of 2024, but full on in January 2025, and it will fade out. Its exact time of moving on to the next set of nodal signs is going to be in July 2026. So that's not too far away, and it will eventually fade out by the fall of 2026. So if anybody's having any problems with water retention, abnormal swelling, lymphatic problems, lymphatic drainage problems, or immune system problems, we are slowly getting out of that as well. So that's a good thing. And lots of times, during the health axis, we can have health conditions arise, but lots of times they can come with resolutions by the end of that term. So we could be looking at that too. And during the health axis, I like to refer back to the same time zone. So the nodal axis take about 18 years and, I don't know, like a few days or a few weeks before they return to that same exact position. So the same exact position, about that 18-year marker, was 2006, 2007, and into 2008. So if you can remember back that far, what was going on back then. So it will be linked. It won't be the same content. It won't be the same ailment or illness or whatever, but lots of times the underlying cause can be very, very related or linked to what's going on right now. So it won't be the exact same story. It might not be the exact same fix, but it will be related in some way, shape, or form, okay? So it is something to keep in mind. So that's always kind of interesting to look back at, and it can give us hints or ideas of, oh, you know, what can we do to make this better? Well, this is what I was doing back then. Let's go give this a try, or look in this area or this field, and there'll be either something similar or like a branch of something that might work, okay? All right. I think that's all I want to say for that right now. Okay, so we also have a huge stellium of Aries energy. So basically there's two signs, fire and water, which really don't mix well. They don't get along. Well, you know, water puts the fire out. And when you have hot, burning, fiery Aries energy, the go-get energy, and you have huge, huge emotional, intuitive, watery energy, if you mix them together, wow, you got steam. So she's hot and steamy. So that essentially can be a very, very solid undertone is what's going to go on this particular week. And again, we can see that hot, steamy, emotional, hot, steamy energy on a global scale with what's going on in our world today. So we can really see that playing out. And do note there is two signs that are the signs of sovereignty. One is the fire sign of Aries, and one is the fire sign of Leo. And we certainly see that energy playing out. Okay. So the more we go on in time, the more Aries energy that's going to show up. Okay, so we do have quite a few planets sitting in Aries. We have 5. Well, actually, I guess we have 4 and we have Chiron. So that's a lot of Aries energy. So again, that is kind of like the go-getter energy. It energizes us. It gives us energy to want to do things, start things, pioneer things, have courage. Very, very courageous. It's assertive energy, right? It's impulsive too. It's very, very motivated as well, and it's quite bold. It's also competitive. So that's something we want to keep in check. So those are quite really, really good defining words for Aries and description. So starting things, and again, we are nicely into our astrological new year, of course. You know, the spring equinox and the sun entering into Aries. That happened on the 20th. So again, I'll just a belated happy astrological new year to everybody out there. And again, this is, Aries is also known as the pioneer, the pioneering energy, right? So taking shape, beginning new cycles. It's a cardinal sign. It starts, it begins, it flourishes in this area. Like it's a go-getter fire sign. Now, the one thing I will mention is about the fire sign, and I should have mentioned about the Pisces, but I'll mention that a little bit later. So that's all the good characteristics about Aries, and usually it tends to be I-oriented, right? So it's about me, myself, and I, how I would come first, or my interests, and that's very, very characteristic of Aries. Now, the other thing we want to watch for, because there's so much Aries energy going on here, is we want to keep in check the negative side of Aries, because that can be very, very warlike. So we can have war, fight for a cause, or it can be that fight just because you want to fight, like burnout energy, right? So again, I will mention again, Aries is very, very motivated, and it can be overdone to the point of overexhaustion and complete burnout. So do avoid that. We do not want to see that going on with anybody in any way, shape, or form. And do not burn others out, because that can also be a problem. So we can also have egotistic energy, very, very impatient. That is not a good side of Aries. And being too headstrong. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being competitive, but do not be over competitive. The one thing, it can be very, very warlike. It can be violent. It can be exceptionally selfish, right? But it's very, very good as, you know, an executive or leadership roles. It thrives there and it flourishes there, okay? And the one thing we want to stay away from too is being domineering, violent, hasty, and it can be very, very hot-tempered again, right? And the belligerent. Okay, so that's something else that can also be a problem. But we do love the enthusiastic, adventurous energy of Aries. So those are kind of some of the words and the descriptions that will go with Aries. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because we have so much Aries energy. And the one thing I do want to say about Pisces too, backing up, the good qualities, it's exceptionally intuitive, right? It's all about the mystical study, mystical interest, a religious interest. It's very artistic, it's musical, it's creative. Now, the shadow side of that is people pleaser. So that's something else I want to put a warning out about, is the people pleasing. That can definitely be a problem. I think for a lot of most people, it can be very, very deceptive as well. Deceit, deception in a negative format for Pisces is definitely that. It can be wishy-washy, spaced out, living in fantasy land, rose-colored glasses, head in the sand, not seeing things for what they are, not because they can't, because they don't want to. Okay, so that is some of the negative sides of that, but very, very, very beautiful for intuition, emotional sharing, caring, very, very compassionate, and is very charitable, sympathetic, empathetic, right? So it's got very, very, very beautiful emotional and sympathetic and compassionate qualities about it, as well as being creative and artistic and very inspiring, I might add as well. And so it does like its engagement or interest in, like I said, like psychology or deep psychology, spirituality, so whatever that is to you, or mysticism or occult. And it also thrives with creative expression. So I'm only mentioning these two because that's pretty much all we have for quite some time, are these energies. So we can mix and match, right? So you can have, I want to start a new creative endeavor. Spit out the marbles here. So that would be a mixing of good fire quality energy with good quality Pisces energy. But we could also have belligerent, addictive areas as well. We could also have war zone, or fighting, or domineering, or trying to overpower somebody else, right? So that's something else we want to be looking at. And like I said, keep everything on a positive note. And it would not probably be the best idea to engage in any conflict, not this week, probably not ever, but because we're so full of conjunction energy, like that's the most powerful fused, charged aspect on the charts. We want to do something good with it, something positive with it, not war, conflict, or anything domineering, hasty, or violent, because that can really get out of hand. All right. Okay, so the one thing, what else do we want to talk about? Like I said, we have lots of conjunction energy. So the one thing we're going to be having is going to be a lot of communication coming in, a lot of communication going out. So that can be via any means. So that can be chit chat, talk, email, text message. It can be letters, registered letters, any sort of format of communication. Learning, it can include travel. And again, this can be a little peaked energy for stress, anxiety, worry, that runaway mind. And I only say that because we have quite a bit of Mercury energy, or active Mercury, in a conjuncted way. So again, that can be, learning good things, doing good things, having good communication coming in. But on the flip side of that, that can be very stress-induced, stress-oriented, or created anxiety, or specifically the runaway mind, the uncontrollable mind that creates problems that aren't there, probably never will be there. So just something to note, right? So it's really, really a good week to stay, keep the energy fields clean. So delete, clear, and dispose of all negative energy and recharge with new energy. So good grounding techniques, being outside, good music, singing bowls, anything that creates a good mojo or a good vibe for you. And again, something else, when we have so much Piscean energy, something that can be very, very common during this time zone is absorbing other people's negative energy. So that just made me think of that when I got talking about having good grounding techniques. So taking on other people's negative energy that does not belong to you. So our water sign friends out there are known for that. They're like little watery, absorbent sponges that absorb everybody else's emotions and negative energy. So if you do notice that happening, do something about it. So if it doesn't belong to you, shed it, clear it, delete it, get rid of it, and recharge with new positive energy, okay? Okay. So again, we can be seeing a lot of communication, incoming news or information that would impact the future of our lives. So on a personal and a global level, and we do certainly see that playing out. Again, there is going to be a locking of the horns. I can see when it comes to trying to control, and that can include governing bodies. So trying to implement control tactics, limits, restrictions with people, anything to do with restricting laws or trying to create laws that restrict people, and there's going to be the pushback. So I say that because we have leadership roles or leadership statuses or titles involved because we have the Sun conjuncting Saturn. So that could be leadership roles or people that hold those title or status coming into problems with law or legislation, or they're trying to create problems for the general public with law and legislation, or it is going to be the public lashback, the public pushback. Okay, so we can see that certainly playing out on the global level, right? And that can be personal, of course. I mean, if you're on the planet, you count personal to global level. But if it's not happening in your personal world, first of all, good for you. And if it's not, that's great. But you can also see this playing out on the global level. Okay, so we've all seen that for a while, but this can be a very, very peaking point or a peaking point week for this. Again, the pushback, right? And also, this can be a very, very, very good week for manifesting things into physical form. So quite lovely. And the other thing is we can see karmic playback. The karma buses in town, karma, paying out. So karma, good, or like karmic rewards, or someone's going to be facing karmic consequences. Remember, Saturn is our Lord of Karma, and it is mixing in with the Sun, okay? So that is something that has a possibility of playing out. And this is also where we can see hard work paying off, right? But if it's not, if cheated ways are being taken, this can be the beginning of the takedown, the fall down, the imploding, the structural cracks showing where it begins to start falling apart. Remember, Saturn is not only our Lord of Karma, but it's all about discipline. It's about hard work. It's about structure. It's about long term. It's about old age. It's a very, very serious planet. It doesn't have a lot of humor about it. It means business and get down to business, and it will hold right for taking responsibility and being held accountable and responsible. So that we can see playing out on a global level this week for sure. All right, and this is going to be looking at karmic relationships too. So Chiron and Venus are both lit up on a conjunction. So Chiron is about those old hurts and wounds, mentally, emotionally, physical wounds that can also include financial problems, financial hurts, financial troubles. And when we have Venus involved, that always revolves around relationships or partnerships or finances. So we can definitely see finances or fights, hovering around finances. So if you're going to take that in a global level, that can be global finances, that can be countries' finances. What's going on here? And we got a problem going on that needs to be resolved, or it's very highlighted in some way, shape, or form. It can also involve money, assets, where you make your money, tangible areas, those kind of things. Again, that can be anything to do with money. That can also include art and beauty. So this can be those kind of problems arising, but it can also be the resolutions or maybe a direction or a cycle you want to kick off on, or an interest. So that can involve maybe new partners, new relationships. No, that's not always romantic, but it can be. So it can be any sort of relationship. That could be family, that could be friends, that could be partners, that could be partnerships in business, anything to do with making money. It also does include romantic partnerships, and it can be also including old hurts and wounds from the past. Again, I want to say karmic relationships because that just sort of jumps out at me as old things that have not been resolved resurfacing. And again, it might be like a kickoff or a resolution or conclusion, a healing, or answers in those areas. Again, remember, Venus is always usually about the relationships. It likes the finer things in life, right? And it's also about manifesting too, right? So we have two manifesting planets involved this week. So the Saturn and Venus. Okay, so what else do we have to say? Anyway, it is just one of these weeks. And remember, everything I've just talked about, whether it's the Aries energy or the Piscean energy, we are boxed in by crazy Uranus. And so that is the shake-up planet, right? So it's going to be unusual, weird things, crazy people, crazy behaviors, and unexpected things or unexpected events, unexpected people showing up to say or do unexpected things. Like that, where it's going to start creating, plans to change. So unexpected something that comes in. Well, I was going to plan this today, but this weird thing showed up out of the blue, and now we have to go this direction instead of that direction. So again, that whole Uranian energy or Uranus energy is really going to be governing a lot of this week from start to finish. So that's interesting too, because you just never know what's going to show up. So it could be that breakdown that becomes that breakthrough. It's kind of like a weird combo. So like I said, those are kind of the major energies playing out this week. So it is a very, very busy week. It's a very highlighted week. It's like a high static charge, but it depends what you're going to do with it. How you handle it, how you respond to it is how it's going to play out. This will not be a good week for everybody. I can guarantee that, unfortunately. But for some people, it will be very, very good. Or it can be a combination of both. But it's not going to be idle. It's not going to be quiet energy. It's very charged, good or bad, or good and bad. Okay? Okay, the last thing I do want to talk about a little bit is we do have quite a bit of Plutonian or Pluto aspects going on, so why would I say anything about that? Because it can include topics of death and regeneration, rebirth, endings of cycles, birthing of new cycles, or regeneration of something or whatever, or a redo. It can be topics of estates, inheritances, wills, funeral plans, those kind of things, and we do have quite a bit of activity with that, so that is definitely has potential for that kind of thing. And again, this can also be the lotto house too, right? So that it's kind of a weird week. It's not a lot of Pluto energy, but it's definitely going to be showing up for some people. Estates, or you might even doing making a will or doing some estate planning. That's possible. Or having anything to do with inheritance or inheritance payouts, those kind of things. It can include intimacy and sex. Again, family money, spousal money, capital loans, taxes can definitely show up here, and we are in tax season, of course. And this is also the health house. So every time we have Pluto energy, that Pluto always rules the 8th house, and the 8th house is the house of surgeries. It's the house of hidden procedures. So when we see that, it's also the psychology house. It's a water house where there's things going on in the background with your health or health care procedures that usually tend to be going on in the dark, where people have things done that you don't know about. So for example, it could be plastic surgery. This also can include miscarriages, and it unfortunately can include abortions. That's just how it is. Or medical procedures that just people don't know about, and people don't need to know about. But it's private, but that is the house of that. It's also emotional health, mental health as well, okay? So that's something that can be included there as well. All right, so again, we're just going to go do a little rundown of some of the topics that are going to be talked about. I think I talked about a lot of them. So this is going to have to do this whole week shuffling around your finances, right? And also your value and value systems. I forgot to mention that. So your self-worth, your values, your value systems, your value structures, and there's going to be some restructuring going on there. So what do I mean by that? You know what? You hold yourself at a higher self-value. Your value systems have upgraded, and as soon as your value systems upgrade in life, generally your life usually gets better. So that often that can mean cutting out negative people, or people who just don't have identical value systems. Eventually you drift apart and there's time to cut them away. So that can happen. But this can happen to do with around your money, where you make your money, your jobs, your employment. It can have to do with savings accounts. Anything to do with assets, valuables, and possessions. The second house is always about money and possessions house. And again, this will definitely hover around relationships, partnerships, aesthetics, design. This can include practitioners. You might be a practitioner. You might be looking for a new practitioner. Helpers. You might be the helper. You might be looking for a helper. So this can also include agreements and contracts. And at this point in time, we are out of Mercury retrograde. We're still post-shadow, but it would be okay at this point to sign agreements and contracts. But do be sure to read the detail, the fine print, because we are still in the post-shadow phase. So clients, customers, customer relations, public relations, customer service. And this is also about not only relationship with others, but our relationship with self. And this is where our values and value systems and value structures come into play. This is also about an air house. You might be talking about travel, air, and communications as well. So this can also include air travel of any kind. You can be talking about your children, your grandchildren, creative expressions, creative projects, hobbies, fun, having fun. That can include gambling, creative expression, doing things that give you pleasure, joy, anything fun in that sort of essence. This can be hidden talents as well. Leadership roles, being seen on a more public or social status scene, okay? Romance, falling in love, sex, and it's about what's bringing you joy, what brings you fun. It can be the bucket list house. This is also about good luck, speculation. And that is the 5th house of Leo, which is ruled by the sun because we have an active sun this week. This also includes the 3rd house because we have an active Mercury. Mercury rules the 3rd house. So talking to relatives. So often this is known as a sibling. So any sibling, older, younger, or whatever, any sort of sibling you would consider a sibling. It's not always a blood sibling, right? So there's that. So relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, and this is about communication devices. So we're talking iPods, iPads, iPhones, computers, those kind of things. Transportation, mobility, so that can be modes of mobility, physical mobility, wheelchairs, scooters, cars, trucks, quads, anything like that. Writing and editing, and that's short trips here and there. Social media platforms, and internet. So this is also an air house. So we now have 2 air houses lit up. So again, so that can be about air travel, that can be about communication abroad, or it can just be about communication, period. And this can be about not only your siblings and relatives, but neighbors and people who are close to us, people in the neighborhood. This can be a problem with gossip, okay? So again, gossip can be a problem. So just keep a leash on that. And even if you do know facts, you do know things, it doesn't mean you have to talk about it. So my best advice for this week, there's nothing wrong with knowing, but mind your own business. And don't repeat it. Even if you know it to be factual, just don't say nothing. Keep it to yourself. Again, nothing wrong with knowing doesn't mean you need to spread it, because gossip could get to be quite a problem this week, okay? The 3rd house always has a gossip problem. Okay, and the 6th house is the health house. It's also a karma house. So the 6th house is the health house, health, healing, wellness, about daily routines, daily regimens, organization, using systems at work, finding systems at work, creating systems at work. It's also about pets, service to the world, employees, daily routines, mentorship. And this is also a house of it's about work, it's about details and doing things that mean a lot to you, that are important to you. So doing work that is important to you. Diet, exercise, health, focus. And this can also be a house of a bit of a bad luck. Just things didn't go according to plan. Things did not work out. It's just the way it is. And it can also include slavery or enslavement. So slavery or enslavement, that can mean, you're enslaved to a job that you hate because of the debt overload or the payments, right? Or it can be slavery, enslavement in a relationship. So unfortunately, that will apply to some people out there too, but that's essentially what that would mean. Again, we have the 10th house lit up. We have a Saturn conjunction, so that's usually about leadership, titles, statuses, how you're seen out in the world, what you're known for, those types of things. And it's about hard work. This can also include dads, father figures, authority figures, right? But it likes discipline, responsibility, strategy, accountability. It's about public reputation. This will cover long-term things, long-term events, physical time and structures. This can be about work, business, and jobs, career, and management. Okay. This can also have to do with your actually specific title. When I talked about your place out in the world, how you're seen or how you're known for, so that could be teacher, that could be lawyer, but that could also be married, single, or divorced. So that could be a title there too. Maybe you want to be, maybe you don't want to be, maybe there's a process of getting married, or maybe there's a process of separation or divorce that could be going on as well. And again, this 10th house, we are definitely going to see leadership roles out on the global scale, like showing its face big time. So there's going to be the clash of restriction versus the clash of freedom. So the clash of trying to squeeze down society, and there's going to be society exploding back. So it's the pushback. All right. It's a very, very fiery time, right? Very emotional time. And something else that can be beefed up during this time is heightened intuition, heightened dream state, those kind of things, because it's just the perfect combination for that kind of spiritual work and, all of a sudden getting an elevated fiery boost or starting, okay? So that could be something coming into shape for you as well. And so the first house is also lit up because Aries and Mars both rule the first house. We have a very, very, very fiery Aries for the next while. So this can be all about the physical body, the physical health. This can actually really hover around the face and the head area. So do be careful about traumas to the head, injury to the head, hitting your head, somebody hitting you in the head. Or it can be attention to your facial features, or skin on your face, or just a facial attention, or a facial focus, or a head focus. That could actually include your hair and your makeup and everything, right? Or your physical body. This also includes the muscle and muscle system. So you might be working out, getting into a diet and an exercise routine that will improve the physical body. That's possible. And your physical appearance is going to be very important, and that will be quite important over the next one because we have so much Aries energy going on. And remember, the first house is also considered a health house. So realistically, we have all three health houses lit up. So we have the first house, the sixth house, and the eighth house. All three of those houses are lit up this week. So it's very, very health oriented, very much a health focus. That the health focus and area will be a different storyline for everybody. But again, the one thing is could be physical attention to the body, but also a physical focus to the head. So you can be working on the head or the face or the hair in a good way, but do be careful for head traumas. Okay, and the 12th house. Again, this is that emotional, intuitive, watery Piscean energy. And the 12th house is also a water house. It's a house of the hidden. Anything dark and watery, we can't see below the surface. We can't see what's going on behind closed doors because it's dark. You can't see. The doors are shut. So this is the house of behind the scenes. It's hidden or it's secret. It's also a psychology house. It's a solitude house. It's a privacy house. It's about rest, retreat, rejuvenation, recharging time, dream time, dreamscape time, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, teleportation, astral dreams. This is also the house of the subconscious mind. Our psychology, our inner work. And it's also really, really, really linked to the cosmic soup area, esoteric, spirituality, occult, mysticism, mystical study, Akashic records, big time house for that. So this is also where the areas of fear and addictions lie as well. Again, that is 12th house. That's very Piscean energy. It's very Neptunian energy. So there might be problems, fear-based, scared of doing something, scared of seeing something, scared of dealing with something, and we could have escapism. There's escapism is a big thing in the 12th house as well. Addictions to escape, right? Any sort of addiction that can include alcohol, recreational drugs, street drugs, prescription drugs. It can be sex addiction. It can be pornography addiction. Any addiction under the sun can be included in this house. It's also the house of avoiding, evading, ignoring, escapism. Escapism, avoiding or ignoring things that need some attention or need acknowledgement. That is really a big part of this house. And again, this can also include foreign lands, foreign shores, or foreign people. Okay. Isolation too. Again, so isolation, or being stuck. So isolation can be good or bad. So you might be self-isolating for rest, rejuvenation, recharging, self-care time, or you might be isolating because you want to write a book, write poetry, write music, whatever. But there's also the isolation where, say, for an unhealthy or an abusive relationship where you have one partner isolating the other from family, friends, etc., relatives. That's possible. It's also the house of confinement. Isolation can also mean forms of confinement. So when I talk about forms of confinement, that's hospitals, prisons, jails, orphanages, being stuck in isolation. You're stuck somewhere because you're in a hospital because you've been admitted by a doctor and you're kind of isolated to your hospital room, for example. And again, spirituality is a big thing. This is also the house of generational karma and past lives. So when I talk about generational karma, that is the generational karma that follows family, generations of families or family cycles. So, there's something, a cycle, a repetitive cycle that is in your life, your parents' life, your grandparents' life, your great-grandparents' life. If you think back, most of these families, well, any family, it does have generational karma that follows its generations over and over and over. So that's always caught my attention here. And last but not least, and this is one of the biggest things that can be in this 12th house, is redefining you, redefining your ego, and rebuilding yourself from the ground up. A good example is this: you lost your job, you lost your career, and now you're starting over. Or you were married, now you got divorced, and we're starting at ground zero. We're starting over. You're rebuilding yourself from the ground up, okay? And again, I did touch a little bit on the 8th house. Again, it's a health house. This can also cover areas of cancer. So cancer in the body, any type of cancer. Again, it's mental, emotional health, mental health. It's also about medical procedures that are not seen. So again, hidden surgeries or hidden procedures. This is also the house of abortions or miscarriages, those types of things. And inheritance, other people's money. This can also include spousal money, spousal support, alimony, child care money, loans, taxes, credit. You might be checking your credit report, or because it's tax season, filing your taxes, getting a tax refund, getting a tax bill. This also includes intimacy and sex. So also intimacy, sex, falling in love, and romance. That's very, very highlighted in this area. So it might be a focal point. This is psychology and the parapsychology, mysteries, esoteric. It's also the lottery house. Again, the house of surgeries. And this can also be power and control issues, and we're certainly seeing that playing out on a global level, but this can also be personal, of course. So hopefully not too bad, but that's always a possibility. This is also the house of mystical, occult, and mysticism. So that's very, very, very highly throughout this whole week, because we have that pinging off 3 different planets here. And so that may be something you might be taking an interest in. This is about other people's resources and money too, right? So somebody might be lending you money, somebody might be giving you money. You might be winning some money. That's a possibility. This is also the house of death and transformation and taxes. So some of us out there will certainly be dealing with death issues, death topics, funeral planning, those types of things, funeral expenses, maybe headstones, estates, wills, or if that's not it, you might be thinking about writing a will, doing estate planning, or it can be even prearranged funeral arrangements, those type of things too. It's also the house of self-empowerment, the empowerment house, so that's always nice, and that's a good thing for everybody, especially when we have a highlighted area for restructuring our own personal value systems, value structures, and upgrading our relationship with self, okay? All right, I think that pretty much covers that. Those kind of things. Okay, so those are kind of the topic and the content that we're going to be talking about. That's more a whole solid version, a solid list of all the things that could be coming up. The one thing I do want to talk about a little bit is the health and anatomy, and so when we're talking about that, so again, I'm going to quick, because again, we have so much Aries and Pisces energy. So some of the top things we're going to be looking at is the head, the face, the brain, the upper teeth. So again, that can be external, that can be internal. So it can be anything to do with the brain or any area of the brain, or it can be the external. So it can be, your skin on your face, your eyes, your eyebrows, your bone structure, your skin quality, your hair. Maybe you're getting a haircut, maybe you're getting it dyed, maybe you're getting a total makeover redo on your head and face. That's possible. Or it can even be dental work, okay? Or medical attention in any of those areas. And so when we talk about the Pisces, that's going to include the feet and the Achilles heel, the blood. So it could be blood test, your immune system, good or bad, the lymphatic system as a whole. So it can be lymphatic drainage, it can be lymphatic function, or lymphatic problems, toxicity. So because that can be toxic waters or toxic fluid, toxic water within the body, viruses. That can also include the thymus gland, water retention, like I talked a little bit before. So we can have water retention in the body that's kind of unexplained, or unexplained swelling, or swelling in spots where it normally isn't, and eventually that energy is going to fade away. So yahoo for anybody who is having those issues, and addiction problems, so that includes that as well. All right, so the rest of it is going to take in, so we're going to talk about Venus first. So the throat, chin, cheeks, taste, the kidneys might be of key focus, ovaries, internal reproductive organs. That will include the endocrine system, the hormones, male or female. Blood circulation, again, We talked about the skin areas. This can be about the heart, so heart health, upper back, spleen, circulatory system, and of course the eyes. And this might be looking at your general vitality and state of health, and that really can boil back to that house number one of the physical body. You know, the muscle structures, you know, diet, exercises. Like I said, we have all these health houses. Everyone that could be lit up is lit up. So a very, very general health focus in every and any area of the body. Okay, so the central nervous system, and I mentioned that about, you know, it can be good, clear thinking, things starting to untangle, miscommunication, you know, being fully understood, those types of things, but it can, you know, hover around anxiety, stress, runaway mind, overthinking things, those kind of things, that can be a problem. So your mouth, tongue, respiratory system, that will include the lungs, hands, arms, your elbows, your thyroid gland. Again, this also hovers around the mind in any way, shape, or form. Your thinking patterns, anything to do with that. Okay, this can also include the bones, any sort of bone in the body or anything to do with the skeletal system. And again, the teeth. So I talked about the teeth before, so that can be upper and lower teeth. So you could be having dental surgery, teeth pulled, tooth implants, just a dental cleaning, maybe false teeth or the denturist. So anything to do with upper and lower teeth in any way, shape, or form, or just getting a checkup to do with your teeth. This can also to do with your ligaments, your knees, auditory organs, anything to do with the ears or hearing organs, and that can include hearing aids, gallbladder, parathyroid gland, body protein. That also includes the tendons. So the tendons anywhere in the body and the bones and anywhere in the body. So that could be like a shin bone, that could be an arm bone, it could be leg, it could be the backbone, anything, a shoulder blade bone, anything to do with the skeletal bones in the body. And this can also hover, this won't be so much, but it's possible. We could be looking at the eliminative and reproductive system. So that can be anywhere from the bowels to the lower intestines, the colon, the rectum to the urinary tract areas, those kind of things, pituitary gland, abnormal growth. So this is always something that Pluto hovers around, is the abnormal growth. So that can be many things. That can be skin tags, that can be warts, tumors, moles, birthmark, and this one here, the abnormal growth, always covers the area of cancer or cancer in the body. So there might be communication about cancer, there could be diagnosis, there could be resolutions, there could be treatments, or just talking about it. It might not have nothing to do with you, but the topic of it might come up. And again, the hypothalamus gland. And something else I do want to talk about when we come to Pluto, it is kind of active, and this has to do with mining as well. That's got nothing to do with the health. We're done on the health and anatomy areas. But not only it has to do with mining, so it can be mining any sort of minerals or any sort of precious metals, or it can be mining or drilling for oil, those kind of things. And we can definitely see that being highlighted here because we have so much Piscean energy. And so when we talk about Pisces, that always covers oil and gas. And so if we do mining, digging, drilling for oil, gas, which will affect or have some sort of playing out effect for the oil prices, the gas prices, or anything to do with those areas. And it can be very, very starting to be focused on mining for resources in the dirt. Anytime we see Pluto active, that's always mining for whatever deep down into the earth, deep down into the dirt. Okay, so apply that accordingly, however that would make sense, because everybody's kind of got their own kind of idea or what it would mean to them. So that will, that I think will end today's week, or this week's weekly woo. Again, we don't have a lot of daily aspects. I mean, there's a little something every day for the most part, except the 24th. But it can be considered a little unexpected, erratic week because we have so many conjunctions, which is a little abnormal. We don't usually have that many. And that active crazy Uranus on both ends. So it's like, and anything can and will happen, but it's very, very, very charged energy. So it's great lift-off energy to start things, right? We're in that Aries season. It's go-getter, fiery energy. We want to start this. We want to begin that, which is wonderful. Just don't overdo it. Do not create burnout for you or you're somebody else. And again, don't actually, I'm going to say don't, but keep your tempers and your anger in check, because this week can be a real kickoff for conflict, fights, or things that you're really in a negative aspect, right? Lots of good going around it, but it can really go south real quick. It can be really out of control. Okay, so that will conclude our weekly woo for this week. So until we talk again, stay happy, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and until we talk again, bye for now.